Wayne's next two films didn't fare much better, and the 23-year-old former college football star was dropped from the Fox studio roster. Though off to a shaky start, Duke liked acting and was determined to make a living at it. But when his next job at Columbia Pictures lasted less than a year, John Wayne found his only form of employment in the cheap westerns produced by Hollywood's B-movie studios.
They are 55-minute odors, very much turned out on a formula. He even plays the same character in several of them and rides the same horse, and, they plugged in a new leading lady occasionally.
Drop that gun! I keep him covered. Men, we didn't kill Mason. And if you'll call his daughter, she'll prove it.
Here she comes now.
Miss Mason, these men have accused us of killing your father.
Oh, no, Mr. Melgrove. These are the men that drove the outlaws away and saved my life.
Well, in that case, we certainly owe you gentlemen an apology.
While the roles on Hollywood's Poverty Row weren't demanding, the work was steady, and it kept Wayne out of the unemployment lines.
I think he was a workaholic. He turned on this work, and it became so much a part of him that there was no turning it off.
Over the next few years, Wayne cut his teeth on these popular serial westerns. Appearing in close to 30 films, he modeled his characters after his childhood hero, Harry Carey.
The Harry Carey character as a cowboy impressed John Wayne. His power came from understatement. He didn't have to strut, he didn't have to shout. Wayne became the inheritor of the Harry Carey natural cowboy approach.
With each picture, Wayne honed his acting skills, capitalizing on his physical assets.
He learned to walk with a great rhythmic grace. He had a kind of undulant walk. The way he stood, the way he rode in the saddle, it took him a while to develop all of that.
While Wayne was establishing himself as a believable Western hero, he was also building a personal life. In 1933, Wayne asked his girlfriend of 7 years, Josie Sands, to be his wife. And on June 24th, the couple married at the home of actress Loretta Young, a Sands family friend. The next year, Duke and Josie celebrated the birth of a son, Michael. But the long hours and non-stop production of the Western serials left the actor tired and with little time for his new family.
He would like to have been a good family man. But if you're making one B-Western after the other, that's exhausting work.
Your cyclones are all whirlwinds, fella. You'd better run along before a storm breaks. Because I got a feeling I'm going to cloud up and rain all over you.
You and who's on?
But even when there was a break from the 12-hour workdays and back-to-back productions, Wayne preferred the company of his buddies from the set. Evenings were spent carousing at the Hollywood Athletic Club with friends like movie cowboy George Gabby Hayes, stuntman Yakima Canutt, and actors Paul Fix and Ward Bond. Weekends often found Wayne aboard director John Ford's yacht, the Arraner. Duke shared Ford's love of drinking, card-playing, and the sea. And the men would often take long cruises, escaping the pressures and attention of Hollywood. But Wayne's hard-drinking escapades and macho friends were worlds apart from his home life, and his marriage to his devoutly Catholic wife, Josie, soon began to show signs of trouble.
Duke is a B-Western actor, and that didn't quite fit her concept of society. And Duke would come home, and there would be a priest in the house, and she was surrounded by a very strong Catholic entourage.
By 1938, after churning out nearly 70 pictures in just 9 years, the actor had reached a critical plateau in his career.
He was fighting for a long time, the cowboy encapturement, that he didn't want to be caught always in the same role, and he was trying to move out of it.
On a weekend trip in 1938, director John Ford asked Duke to read the script of his latest project, Stagecoach. By now, Ford was a powerful Academy Award-winning director, and it had been a decade since he and Duke had worked together. Though Stagecoach was a modestly budgeted Western, Wayne never expected his friend to offer him the role of the Ringo Kid. It was the opportunity of a lifetime.
What fascinating stories there were in the life of a stagecoach.
Ford had earned a reputation as a cruel taskmaster and was known for his harsh treatment of actors and unorthodox directing style. Even though Wayne brought 10 years of experience to his role, he was made to feel like an amateur.
Ford just browbeat Wayne in Monument Valley when they were making that. Claire Trevor said he would grab hold of Wayne's chin and shake it and say, "Don't you know you don't act with your head, your movements, you act with your eyes in films?" But he brought a performance out of Wayne that was classic.
If you look at the script, the Ringo Kid isn't all that much. But if you look at the movie, the Ringo Kid is terrific. What Wayne manages to do through his sheer graceful movements and his Nureyev quality and his presence on camera is transcend that part and make it into more than it really was.
Released in 1939, Stagecoach was a critical and box office smash. Nominated for 7 Academy Awards, it was hailed as one of the top films of the year. Critics singled out Wayne's sensitive performance, and after 10 years in Hollywood, he was welcomed into the ranks of A-movie actors. Duke Morrison had worked long and hard to make something of John Wayne, and he was willing to protect his investment at any cost.
Our biography of John Wayne will continue here on A&E.
The tremendous success of Stagecoach introduced John Wayne to an entirely new audience and gave him the breakthrough he had hoped for. Over the next 2 years, major studios cast him in a variety of featured roles, opposite famous leading ladies like Marlene Dietrich, and under the direction of distinguished filmmakers like Cecil B. DeMille. But as the B-movie veteran was stepping into his A-movie career, events far away from the comfort of Hollywood sound stages were about to change the playing field dramatically. On December 7th, 1941, bombs fell on Pearl Harbor, and America declared war on Japan. Within hours of the news, young men and women, driven by a new sense of patriotism, signed up for the fight for freedom. But for John Wayne, the decision to enlist was not an easy one. By now, the actor's family had grown to include 3 more children: Mary Antonia, Patrick, and Melinda. Though work had been steady, Wayne was still earning a modest income by Hollywood standards. With little savings in the bank, the 34-year-old felt a greater responsibility to his family than to his country.
Wayne had 4 children. He was getting to the upper limit of draft age. And then from a personal standpoint, he had worked for over 10 years in the salt mines of Hollywood, doing B movies. And finally, he's arrived at his moment.
Republic Pictures, who had Wayne under contract, was unwilling to lose their top moneymaker. The studio and Wayne knew that if he joined up, his most marketable years would be spent on the front line. As many of Hollywood's top stars signed up for the duration, Wayne filed for exemption from duty based on his age and family obligations. Major studios in desperate need of leading men were eager to take advantage of the actor's availability, casting him in a series of westerns and wartime adventure films.
Your first duty is to do as you are told.
Take it easy, Bob.
He just has some kind of charisma about him, and he was a typical American. And I think that's something that people wanted to see.
John Wayne's believable portrayals of the single-minded American soldier who valiantly fights for justice and liberty captured moviegoers as no other performer had. John Wayne was becoming the idealized American hero. But Wayne's new celebrity and busy schedule only widened the growing rift between him and his wife, Josie. The couple now seemed to have little in common but their children.
He was always there, certainly financially, but from something of a distance, in part because he's working, and in part because he's not home.
Fan magazines continued to portray Wayne as the ideal husband and father. But by 1942, Duke had moved out of the house and into an apartment. Though Josie agreed to a separation, her strong Catholic beliefs prevented her from granting a divorce.
I think he wanted to be a good family man. He loved his children. He wanted to be a good father. He felt she was a very good woman, and couldn't quite reconcile that the marriage wasn't working.
With many of Hollywood's most eligible bachelors away at the front, Wayne had become a prime target for his co-star's affections. Marlene Dietrich singled him out, making 3 pictures with the handsome leading man and initiating a long and passionate affair. Wayne was also linked romantically with a beautiful and engaging Mexican woman, Esperanza Chata Bauer, whom he had met during a business trip to Mexico. In 1943, Republic Pictures brought Chata to Los Angeles and put her under contract. By now, Wayne had fallen madly in love and did little to keep the affair a secret.
Duke had grown up in a somewhat puritanical home life, and Duke had some puritanical attitudes regarding sex. Esperanza was uninhibited, and he hadn't experienced this before.
Once a loner in Hollywood who enjoyed the company of only a few close friends, Wayne was now more visible on the nightclub circuit. He and Chata would spend evenings out drinking and mingling with Tinseltown's elite. The very public affair proved to be the final blow to Duke and Josie's marriage. In October of 1943, Josie began proceedings to end their 10-year union. By now, Wayne's macho stoicism and confident demeanor had solidly cemented his characters into the psyche of wartime audiences. Though Wayne had never served, to his growing number of fans, the soldiers he played were believable and inspirational. On August 15th, 1945, the United States celebrated its victory over Japan, and World War II was over. Now firmly established as a bankable leading man, Wayne had won his own battle for acceptance in the industry big leagues. But as Hollywood's biggest stars returned home, 38-year-old John Wayne wondered if he could stay on top.
You're watching John Wayne right here on Biography.
On January 17, 1946, against the strong objections of his closest friends, John Wayne married Esperanza Chata Bauer. Though the couple had been dating for 3 years, Duke's friends feared that Chata's wild ways and questionable background made her a less than ideal wife. Duke, however, was deeply in love with the volatile actress and ready for marriage. But almost immediately, his thriving career would become a source of bitter conflict for the newlyweds. Angel and the Bad Man. Co-starring beside Wayne was Gail Russell, a beautiful but tormented young woman that the star took under his wing.
Gail Russell was a troubled young actress, had a drinking problem, emotionally very insecure. I think Duke felt sorry for her.
Wayne's new bride, however, had little understanding for the friendship. Insanely jealous and certain that her husband was having an affair, Chata began drinking heavily and was prone to violent public outbursts. Wayne's life at home became a living hell.
It was a terribly tempestuous relationship, and she didn't really fit his world. So that was a bad marriage, I guess the phrase is, from the get-go.